finding the right co-founder, I think that's going to be like the toughest job. It's like finding your spouse.
Investors are going to want to see a track record.
Which country, কোন countryর foundersরা সবচেয়ে বেশি creative হয় আপনার মনে হয়?
Bangladesh, because it wasn't just business school, it's also about the University of Cambridge as a whole. I think মানে ঢাকা আসার আগে I was in Abu Dhabi.
I see প্রত্যেকটা পিকচারে যেখানে আপনি যাচ্ছেন না কেন, you have a very big smile on your face.
They're running huge empires or organizations, but fundraising was not their number one goal from day one.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcoming you all to a very special episode of Interactive Adda podcast from Interactive Cares. আমি সাদিয়া ইসলাম প্রমি, আছি আপনাদের এই এপিসোডের হোস্ট হিসেবে। শুরুতেই বলি, আজকের এপিসোডটা কিন্তু খুবই স্পেশাল, কারণ আজকে আমরা খুবই স্পেশাল একজন মানুষের সাথে কথা বলছি। তিনি তার এন্টায়ার লাইফে এত কিছু অ্যাচিভ করেছেন, সেগুলো সব কিছুই কিন্তু আমরা জানবো। তার যেই ভেঞ্চার্সগুলো আছে ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়াইড কিন্তু বেশ বড় মাপের আমাদের উপর একটা ইম্প্যাক্ট ফেলেছে। এবং আমরা যদি আরেকটু ডিটেলসে জানতে চাই ফ্রম হিম, আমরা জানবো যে তিনি কিভাবে ব্লু অরা ভেঞ্চার্সের ইনভেস্টমেন্ট পার্টনার হয়েছেন এবং অ্যাট দ্য সেম টাইম ওয়েস্ট কোস্ট পয়েন্ট গ্রুপের ম্যানেজিং পার্টনার হয়েছেন, এবং ইন ডিটেলস আমরা কিন্তু এগুলো সব কিছুই শুনবো, তার লাইফের স্টোরি শুনবো। উইদাউট এনি ফার্দার এডু, লেটস ওয়েলকাম টুডেজ গেস্ট সামি রহমান ভাইয়া। আসসালামু আলাইকুম, কেমন আছেন?
Walaikum salam. Thank you for the generous introduction. Kubi dhonnobad, and I'm happy to and great to be here.
Most definitely. We are extremely blessed that you are here. এবং আজকে আপনার কাছ থেকে অনেক কিছু শোনার আছে, বিকজ আমরা যখন চিন্তা করছিলাম যে এই পডকাস্টে আমরা কোয়েশ্চেন্স করব, জেনারেলি আমরা বিভিন্ন গেস্টকে একটা বা দুটো ফিল্ড নিয়ে ইন ডেপথ আস্ক করি, বাট when it comes to Samy Rahman ভাইয়া, there's like so many stuff to ask from. So একটু যদি শুরু থেকেই বলি, বিকজ আপনার জার্নিটা বেশ ইন্সপায়ারিং, I would most definitely want my audience to know about it. আপনি ওয়ার্ল্ডের রিমার্কেবল অনেক বিজনেসেস অ্যাকচুয়ালি স্টার্ট করেছেন, স্টার্ট আপ ইনভেস্টমেন্ট প্রজেক্টে কাজ করেছেন, যেমন ব্লু অরা ভেঞ্চার্স এবং ওয়েস্ট কোস্ট পয়েন্ট গ্রুপে, এবং একে একে আপনি ইউএসএ, ইউএই এবং বাংলাদেশের বিভিন্ন বিজনেসের সাথে অনেক এক্সাইটিং কাজ করেছেন। সো এই যে আমি ইভেন দেখেও বলতে হচ্ছে, বিকজ দেয়ার ইজ লাইক সো মেনি স্টাফ টু টক অ্যাবাউট। এত কিছু যে করেছেন অ্যাট দ্য সেম টাইম, ইজ দেয়ার এনি সিক্রেট স্ট্র্যাটেজি বিহাইন্ড ইট?
It's a great ভালো প্রশ্ন। আমি বলবো not a secret strategy per se. অনেকজনই তো বলতে পারে যে there's a secret sauce, and maybe there are some secrets যেটা perhaps I'll share with the audience over time. But overall আমি বলবো যে perseverance, patience, passion is very important. In my case আমি বলবো people have been immensely instrumental, আর এটার মেইন কারণ হচ্ছে যে যেহেতু I have businesses in UAE, in Bangladesh, or in the US as well, it's not possible to manage or do everything with single or small teams in any one place. So having solid partners has helped me a lot. So I'm very grateful to the partners I have in the UAE and in the US and in Bangladesh. And perhaps patterns. So that would be my fifth P in terms of just pattern recognition, trends, recognizing trends are patterns to be able to see how they evolve in different parts of the world. So overall, I think people and patterns. Yeah.
Of course. Bhaiya, যদি আমরা একটু follow up করি আপনার answer-এ, you talked about perseverance, people, patterns. Which P do you think is the most important একটা business-এর success আনার জন্য?
I would say out of all the P's I mentioned, all সবগুলাই, but passion, because maybe as humans, we generally try to show the good sides or the positives, but there are many ups and downs in business. And যখন আমার low points, when I've reached my low points or points of thinking, how do I come back from this, or what are some techniques, or what can I do? At that time, I would say just passion is very important, and being happy and pursuing what you're pursuing. So
of course,
passion.
Being happy কথাটা না আমরা এত লাইটলি বলে ফেলি, বাট জেনারেলি চিন্তা করতে গেলে being happy কিন্তু একটা পার্টিকুলার মন্ত্রা নাই। বাট I am a huge fan of you, আমি বলতে হবে, because I do follow you on social media, I follow you on Facebook and everything. I see প্রত্যেকটা পিকচারে যেখানে আপনি যাচ্ছেন না কেন, you have a very big smile on your face. Now my question is, of course you do have passion in everything that you do, but এই যে you are so happy, আমরা আমাদের লাইফে অনেক কিছু থাকলেও কিন্তু আমরা বলি ভালো লাগছে না, মন খারাপ, ঘুমোতে যাওয়ার আগে যাই করতে যাই না কেন, ইভেন আমি দেখেছি অনেকে ট্যুরে গিয়েও বলে যে আমার ভালো লাগছে না, মন খারাপ, but you smile in every single picture, in every location that you go to. Is there any mantra to smiling all the time?
It's a mindset. অবশ্যই আমি বলবো যে mindset. You have to be happy with what you're doing and কি pursue করছো. But at the same time, just being grateful. I think gratitude, passion, when you're natural as a human, যখন you're grateful, I feel you will be happy in the surroundings you're at. But তার সাথে সাথে I think I'm very fortunate to be doing business in parts of the world or with people যাদের সাথে আমি comfortable, যাদের সাথে আমি communicate করতে পারি, যাদের সাথে I can share ideas and get their perspectives. So it's a bit of both. Having a mindset of যে হ্যাঁ যখন জিনিস if it's not working out in a certain way, obstacles তো আছেই থাকবে, but ওই obstacles এর মধ্যেও to have a positive mindset and the passion to just work through obstacles or challenges. But তার সাথে সাথে I think I've been just very fortunate. I think মানে ঢাকা আসার আগে I was in Abu Dhabi. So if I'm around, some of my childhood interests that I've had, say for cars and in the automotive industry, so I'm obviously around things that I like or around people that I like, যাদের কাছে থেকে আমি কিছু শিখতেও পারছি. So yeah, it's a mix of mindset and passion.
Of course. Once again, talking about people, talking about passion, আরেকটা কথা বলতেই হয়. Right now in Bangladesh, I would be most definitely say যে এটা সবাই right now, the people who are watching this, সবাই এটা agree করতে পারবে যে we all have at least one or two friends যারা তাদের নিজেদের passion থেকে they are having their own startups.
Right.
But my question is, এই যে সবার যে এক একটা করে startup আছে, অনেকেরই কিন্তু আছে, তারা হয়তো স্কুলে ওপেন করছে, কোচিংয়ে ওপেন করছে, ইউনিভার্সিটিতে গিয়ে ওপেন করছে, এই যে এত এত স্টার্টআপস থাকা সত্ত্বেও they don't always succeed. ওরা যতই হ্যাপি থাকুক, যতই প্যাশনেট থাকুক, my question is, why do these startups in Bangladesh not succeed? আপনার কি মনে হয়?
Could be অনেক কারণে failure can arise for multiple reasons, but তার সাথে সাথে আমি বলবো যে not every failure is necessarily a failure. I mean, you may have to অনেক জনের you may have to fail a few times before you succeed. In my case, yeah, I've had my fair share of failures or issues that I face kori, even now for sure. So I think it varies from situation to situation, but onek khetre ami bolbo je don't give up too easily. So maybe certain founders are giving up very quickly. Expectations, mane thik expectations or realistic expectation rakhao I think khub important. It takes time to achieve a certain level of success, but tar ageo even like you are a startup, jodi unrealistic expectations theke thake je ami 1 bochor na 2 bochor na 3 bochor in a very short period of time I'll achieve results, that may be unrealistic. It depends on the founders, maybe background. Shobar, we all have a journey, we all have stories. Now, if you're a first-time founder operating emon ekta industry that maybe your parents haven't been in, you don't have family in that, you don't have friends in that industry or sector, there's going to be time. You need time or someone to, I think, pick up skills, learn about the industry and grow.
Knowledge is very important, right? যাক আমরা যে ইন্ডাস্ট্রি বা যে ভেঞ্চারের কথা আমরা চিন্তা করছি না কেন, even if we do not come from that background, at least সেটার উপর একটু হলেও research, I think, knowledge, everything.
And persistence, and even if you fail, take it as a learning lesson যে এখান থেকে আমি কি শিখতে পারছি and কিভাবে আমি এটা নেক্সট স্টার্টআপে আমি অ্যাপ্লাই করতে পারি.
Of course. Talking about কোনো কিছু শিখছি, আরেকটা কথা আমি just blatantly ask করে ফেলি, since you have been working with so many founders your own whole life, নিশ্চয়ই আপনি অনেক like a couple of thousands of founders দের সাথে এই পর্যন্ত কথা বলেছেন. Let that be hundreds.
Okay.
Okay, so if that is true, আপনার কি মনে হয় with all of these founders what is the one thing that we have in common because আমরা যখন ফাউন্ডার্সের ব্যাপারে জানি আমরা থ্রু ইউটিউব আমরা ভাবি প্রত্যেকজন ফাউন্ডারই ভোর 6টার সময় ঘুম থেকে উঠে তারা খুবই রেগুলার একটা লাইফস্টাইল মেনটেন করে রাইট টাইমে ঘুমোতে যায় অলওয়েজ তারা মেডিটেট করে ইজ দ্যাট সো হোয়াট ইজ দ্য ওয়ান থিং দ্যাট ইউ সি ইন অল ফাউন্ডার্স
I'm sure with mindset or having a very clear, positive mind, just being very persistent. But tacharo communications, I think good founders, good entrepreneurs, they're very good at communicating their vision, how they plan to execute, how they are executing, and providing updates. So in terms of a routine jodi bola jay, is it like, are you taking a morning, are you going to the gym, and do you have I've seen different founders and even mentors I've had jader kintu orokom kono routine not particularly. So it really varies from founder to founder. Whatever helps a founder or an entrepreneur get into the groove and execute. It onek joner jono maybe it's music. They want to listen to music in the morning. It could be the Quran or verses or just prayer and meditation like you're suggesting. So I've seen various things for different people. Yeah.
Of course. So যারা যারা দেখছেন রাইট নাও আপনাদের প্যারেন্টসরা যখন বলে যে না ভোরবেলা ঘুম থেকে উঠতে হবে রাইট টাইমে সব কাজ করতে হবে ভালো উদ্যোক্তা হতে হলে এমনটা কিন্তু সত্য না it actually depends on your own routine your own mindset most definitely.
আর আমার মনে হয় এখন like the way the world's changing as well or has changed, it's a digital first environment that we're all glued to our phones, our screens. So and it depends on what business you're in and your clients work with high. So if you're working with folks in different parts of the world, maybe your time zones it's going to be very different, where you have to work late hours in Dhaka because it's a certain time zone in a different part of the world. So as long as I would say, and this goes for myself as well, obviously, health is key to trying, and I'm trying to focus more on health this year because I'm like, we burn out China. So, yeah.
Of course. Having like a proper mix, proper balanced diet and everything. But like you said, passion, mindset and everything.
Sure.
Talking about those, যেরকমটা কিছুক্ষণ আগে বললাম যে উই অল নো সামওয়ান অর দি আদার যাদের নিজেদেরই একটা ভেঞ্চার আছে বা তারা এই জিনিসটা নিয়ে ভাবছে নাও মাই থিং ইজ আমরা when we grow up ছোটবেলা থেকে আমরা দেখি যে কেউ আছে যারা ডক্টর হতে চায় ইঞ্জিনিয়ার হতে চায় পাইলট হতে চায় অনেকে আবার কিন্তু রাইট নাও বলে দে ওয়ান্ট টু বি আ কন্টেন্ট ক্রিয়েটর অথবা দে ওয়ান্ট টু বি অ্যান অন্টারপ্রেনিউর সো এক একজন কিন্তু একটা হতে চায় বাট গ্রোয়িং আপ বা এই জেনারেশনটা আমরা জেন জি যেটা দেখেছি উই সি আ লট অফ অন্টারপ্রেনিউর্স আমরা দেখি আশেপাশে সবাই যেন অন্টারপ্রেনিউর হতে চায় আপনার কি মনে হয় ইজ ইট রিয়েলি পসিবল ফর এনি পার্সন টু বি অ্যান অন্টারপ্রেনিউর হোয়াট সর্ট অফ কোয়ালিটিজ should an entrepreneur really have?
That's a great question, Prami. I think in terms of, it's very different skill sets if you're an employee versus being an entrepreneur. For entrepreneurship, really having thick skin, because you will hit a lot of low points, rejection to ashbe, and having and যদি তোমার একটা strong vision থেকে থাকে and you're very intentional towards that vision. This is what I do want to achieve, eta hocche amar outcomes, then you will find a way towards those goals. But I don't think to succeed shobariji and entrepreneurial hote hobe, not at all. You can work in an entrepreneurial environment, eta ekta company te hote pare. A lot of companies or corporates I've worked in where say my managers or teams are entrepreneurial, but there's a certain level of structure, you understand the company culture, and so I think it varies from situation or place to place, but also that you can be an entrepreneurial employee as well. And if that gives you more satisfaction, not everyone's risk tolerance is different. So depends on your risk tolerance. What can you fall back on? If you're entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial pursuits, if it fails, what do you fall back on? So I think thinking আরো একটু holistically চিন্তা ভাবনা করলেও so that you can build skills in a work environment and maybe apply those towards your entrepreneurial pursuit. So if it's cross-transferable skills, I think that's a good way to look at things. But entrepreneur je hote hobe, that's the only way to pathway to success, not necessarily.
Not necessary.
Yeah.
Because এখন আমাদের মধ্যে সবার মধ্যেই কিন্তু এই জিনিসটা চলে আসছে যে নো, আমার নিজের ব্যবসা করতে হবে, নিজের মতো করে একটা স্টার্ট আপ দিব, যা আর্নিং আছে আই এম গোয়িং টু কিপ ইট অল টু মাই সেলফ। কাজ যখন আমি চাকরি করতে যাই তখন তো আই এম ফিক্সড অর আই এম বাউন্ড বাই আদার পিপল। সে হচ্ছে আমার entrepreneur and like he's my boss, but being an entrepreneur I'm like my own boss. So এই জিনিসটা I think আমরা অনেক বেশি glorify করে ফেলি here in this era.
True.
But like you said, maybe not everybody is fit to be an entrepreneur and not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur.
আমি বলবো যে এই যে আপনি যেটা কথাটা বললেন যে glorifying, I think we have to be more realistic and honest about what we are glorifying. So glorifying being your own boss, I think এটার মধ্যে there's some truth to it, but at the same time, to succeed as an entrepreneur, you have to, তোমার তো মানে client expectations ও meet করতে হবে. You have to have a positive attitude with so many stakeholders. So for example, I'm an example that now between my time in Dubai, তারপরে Dhaka, and now I'll probably be heading to London as well. Certain parts of the businesses or what I'm involved in are burning. But not in an extremely negative way, but certain parts are burning, and I have to put out fires. So that comes with the responsibilities or what I've set out to achieve. And so I'll use real estate as an example. It's one thing to have a vision of, okay, I want to have or build a certain portfolio and have a partner and focus on real estate investments in Dubai. But when you look at the different time zones, whether it's in Dubai or even in London, you have to deal with your clients and around the clock. So, hoytoba you don't have a boss or a director you're directly reporting to, but you have so many other responsibilities. And being like, I think it goes back to the mindset or being positive about it. People will test you. Even at the work environment, maybe you have a tough boss or you don't want to deal with that, but you're going to deal with tough clients, tough situations. So think through more holistically. You have more stakeholders.
A lot of stakeholders, most definitely. Because even let's say আমরা যে এই পডকাস্টটা right now run করছি, even এইটার পেছনে কতজন stakeholders আছে, right? Like it's not just us two talking. এর থেকেও at least 10 times more people আছে যারা behind the scene work করছে, and
kudos
overall,
to them. And kudos to
most
everyone.
definitely. What I would also like to know is, because আপনি ইনভেস্টমেন্টের কথা বলেছেন, রিয়েল এস্টেটের কথা বলেছেন, throughout your entire life, মোস্ট ডেফিনেটলি আপনি অনেক ডিফারেন্ট জায়গায় ইনভেস্টমেন্ট করেছেন এবং আপনার ইনভেস্টমেন্টের পরিধিটা ছিল আরও অনেক বড়, বিকজ ওয়েন ইউ ইনভেস্ট ইন লাইক মিলিয়ন্স অর মেবি হিউজ অ্যামাউন্ট, রাইট? বাট হিয়ার ইন বাংলাদেশ আমরা অনেকের মধ্যেই কিন্তু স্কুল বা কলেজ বা ইউনিভার্সিটি লেভেল থেকেই এই মাইন্ডসেটটা দেখি যে আমি আস্তে আস্তে করে ইনভেস্ট করব বা সেভ করব এবং এমন কিছুতে ইনভেস্ট করবো যেখান থেকে আমার আর্নিংস আরও অনেক বেশি হয়ে আসে। বিকজ ইউ অলসো হ্যাভ বাংলাদেশি ভেঞ্চার্স, আই উড লাইক টু আস্ক ইউ, আপনার কি মনে হয় টু দোজ হু আর ওয়াচিং রাইট নাও, কোন সেক্টরটাতে ইনভেস্ট করলে সব থেকে বেশি রিটার্ন হবে?
Wow, that's a সুন্দর প্রশ্ন, powerful. I don't want to give I don't think I'm qualified. I can't give an answer of which sector. I mean, there's so many angles and parts to it, but I'm not how you started. I think it does start with choto kore, like invest small and learn from that. Kishikla, what's your risk tolerance? How do you react? Because I've started small, and even now, I think if I want to look at something different, if you go all in and big, and then your risk, the risk is higher. So you have to be comfortable or know that you're risking a lot more. I think in my case, just like with margin of safety, something I learned from a professor at Cambridge, his name was Jeffrey Tannenbaum. To uni Fir Tree Partners chillen. So he actually introduced the concept of margin of safety from Seth Klarman to us. To uni bolten je, have enough of a cushion or a margin so that the markets are not in your favor. If there's macroeconomic risk, if there's micro risk, if there are all these risks and if the tides are against you, তারপর you have enough cushion, and provided you can weather storms over মনে করেন 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, hopefully you can come out. So that's sort of been the philosophy I've always held and had. In terms of sectors, really varies. I'm বলবো যে in Bangladesh, I think e-commerce startups have done very well. And some of the founders, for example, from Chaldal, Wasim Bhai, he's been an inspiration to so many people. And being able to learn from those experiences, I think other founders have also been able to replicate success in their own ways in those sectors. So research is key, but I won't necessarily pick any one sector. Right now, I think there's a lot of interest up in artificial intelligence, in machine learning, and in that space. And I think instead of in Bangladesh, I would say, how are maybe startups integrating artificial intelligence, in how they operate, and is it conducive, or does it act as a catalyst to what they're doing? So yeah, that's how I see it. So I don't have any preference for a particular sector. I'm very comfortable with startups in, say, for example, EdTech, in the education space, but as well as e-commerce. And in my case, there are other stories to it, and not just strictly the financial returns or ROI. When it comes to education, I think education has been such an important part of my life. I've always felt that Bangladesh jara honor student raw ache, how can they grow, or what opportunities can Bangladeshis everywhere, Bangladeshi diaspora abroad, Bangladeshis locally, what can we do together to create more opportunities and provide those opportunities? And that's not strictly not a returns-based decision. So yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So like throughout what we get here is হয়তো বা আমাদের sector based development যে লাগবে বা এই সেক্টরে ইনভেস্ট করলে I'm going to get the most amount of returns এমনটা কথা না, but at the end of the day, as the world যেভাবে আপনি বললেন যে ডিজিটালাইজ আরো বেশি হচ্ছে, প্রত্যেকটা সেক্টরই যতটুকু AI কে ইন্টিগ্রেট করতে পারে, I think that's how they are going to get more and more returns, right? And throughout your answer, Bhaiya, we all also got the reference of Cambridge, the University of Cambridge.
Right.
So I'm like very curious to know যে ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ কেমব্রিজ কে কিন্তু অ্যাকচুয়ালি ওয়ার্ল্ডের সবচেয়ে বেস্ট ইউনিভার্সিটির মধ্যে একটাকে ধরানো হয়। হোয়াট ওয়াজ ইউর এক্সপিরিয়েন্স দেয়ার? এবং আই এম প্রিটি শিওর বাংলাদেশেও দেয়ার আর আ লট অফ সেলিব্রিটিজ অর ভেরি ফেমাস ফাউন্ডার্স হু আর ফ্রম কেমব্রিজ। উই উড লাইক টু নো সামথিং অ্যাবাউট দেম।
It was a opportunity. It was a great opportunity. আমি বলবো যে even before I went to Cambridge, I was able to connect with alumni from Cambridge, and their guidance helped me a lot, because the British curriculum, or the British way of interviewing for admissions, it's still slightly different versus America. So I've been able to, entrepreneurs from more traditional businesses in Bangladesh, I've been able to contact them, and they've sort of guided me in terms of make sure you're aware of these factors or aspects that will come up in your interview. Because it wasn't just business school, it's also about the University of Cambridge as a whole and what they're looking for. In terms of experience, I think outside academics, which I would say the extracurricular activities, being part of different clubs. So I think just being part of the yacht club it was my first time on a boat, literally sailing. So I learned like, wow, I'm not very comfortable with the high waves and low tides and waves. And it was a good way to challenge yourself or try something different. Rowing was great, even as an M3 participant. So through rowing, you quickly learn that you have to be in sync with everyone on the boat. So maybe, opportunities like that, it helps with awareness, self-awareness. So in terms of awareness, I would say, okay, if you're a single solo player, most things in life aren't. So you have to work with folks or people. So I think apnar bolbo je with rowing, it quickly teaches you that you may learn how to row, you may have that skill, but are you going at the same pace as your everyone else on the boat?
Teaches you teamwork.
Yeah, it teaches you teamwork, but also being in sync. Otherwise, I may be rowing, but it can cause friction if it's not in line or in sync with everyone else. So I think the opportunities outside of just pure academia, it introduced me to art. I think just Fitzwilliam Museum, it is an 800-year-old institution. So there's a lot of history, there's a lot of institutional knowledge. And I think absorbing or taking all of that in, it pays dividends, not necessarily in the short term or not necessarily just over 2 or 3 years, but when I've been able to tap into the network down the line, the alumni network, even in art galleries and institutions later on. So that's been pretty cool. Yeah.
Pretty cool. You talked about rowing, you talked about basically going outside of the box, basically, because আমরা যখন ইউনিভার্সিটিতে যাই আমরা শুধুমাত্র কি পড়াশোনার পেছনেই যাবো বা ছুটবো, বিকজ রাইট নাও আমরা এত ডাইভার্স পপুলেশন দেখি বাংলাদেশে, আমরা দেখি যে অলওয়েজ যে ইউনিভার্সিটিটাই ম্যাটার করছে বা ইউনিভার্সিটি কি শিখে যাচ্ছে সেটা ম্যাটার করছে এটা না, রাদার দ্যান সেখান থেকে কি স্কিলস আমি গ্যাদার করছি, কি এক্সপিরিয়েন্স আমি গ্যাদার করছি। টকিং অ্যাবাউট ইউনিভার্সিটিজ ভাইয়া, আই উড অলসো লাইক টু আস্ক আ ভেরি ব্লেটেন্ট question. Please be as honest as possible, because আপনি এত EdTech এর সাথে ওয়ার্ক করছেন, most definitely you do know যে এই সব EdTech এর মধ্যে কিন্তু different courses আছে on entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
At the same time universities তারাও শেখাচ্ছে entrepreneurship. Now my question is, এই university courses বলি বা online courses বলি, are they really effective to properly know about entrepreneurship?
I am a firm believer in the EdTech companies and startups and online programs. I do believe in it. I'm a firm believer. It depends on different people's views, and it's interesting and funny you bring it up. কারণ 2012 আমার মনে আছে আমি যখন কেমব্রিজে ছিলাম, আমার কয়েকটা ফ্রেন্ডস, কলিগস অ্যান্ড আমার প্রফেসরকে জিজ্ঞাসা করছিলাম যে তখন বের হয়েছিল MOOCs, I think I'm forgetting what the M stands for right now, but open enrollment sort of courses. And তখন কিন্তু অনেকজনই, like a lot of professors or academicians, they would turn it down. It's not going to pick up steam. You really want to stick to traditional universities and platforms for learning. But from then, times have changed. It's not feasible for everyone to necessarily be under one roof at any one particular point in time. So digital platforms, I think, are great ways to connect students to professors or teachers or mentors. So I think I see a lot of value in online courses. And I think it's just another way for people to interact, whether that's on social media, whether that's via live classes. So, yeah.
Most definitely. So, because এখন যেহেতু আমরা সবকিছুর মধ্যে এত ডিফারেন্ট ডাইভার্সিটি দেখছি, through online courses at the same time, online courses তো just আমরা bookish knowledge পাচ্ছি না.
Right.
If that is so, maybe then it wouldn't be that much viable, right?
Sure.
Because we see the practical experience that people have, maybe through online courses, যারা mentors যারা আছেন, তারা যখন তাদের নিজেদের practical experience share করবে, when the learners, they themselves get to ask directly to them and even communicate with their peers, I think তখনই একটা holistic experience এর through এটার effectiveness টা আসে.
Sure.
Right? Because at the end of the day, that is what we want. We want to gain the entire experience, not just the bookish knowledge. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I mean, bookish knowledge, tahole to you don't even need universities. You can be self-taught. And I've, certain things, I mean, I'll read books and it's great, but nothing's going to beat the execution or the wisdom of someone who's been there and done that. So that's where I see the value of online platforms. But tar sathe sathe, I think the world's obviously changing very fast. The next generation's growing up on, they're digitally native. So they're growing up with phones or they're growing up in front of screens. So that audience and that generation, it's এক সময় ছিল chalkboards. So from chalkboards we moved to whiteboards. Now from whiteboards to digital platforms. So yeah.
Of course. That's very much necessary, I'll say.
Sure.
So change is inevitable, but change is of course necessary. Bangladesh এইভাবে করে কতটুকু রেটে চেঞ্জ করতেছে আপনার মনে হয়? Because we see education being changed in so many various ways internationally. আমরা দেখি যেমন if we quote for like say Finland, students
I didn't know. Yeah.
তারা হচ্ছে উইকে যেমন 5 days আমরা স্কুলে যাই, in Finland they go to like maybe 3 days.
Sure.
China দেখি, Japan দেখি, they go to school for even longer hours than Bangladesh. আমার কাছে কি মনে হয় বাংলাদেশ এখনো পর্যন্ত ইন্টারন্যাশনাল লেভেলে বা সেই অনুযায়ী এত ফাস্ট গ্রো করতে পারছে না কেন? What are we really lacking?
I mean, that's a very good question. It's a tough question. I don't know if we're lacking anything per se. Perhaps giving students and people more freedom or a leeway or space to try a few things, see where your interests are, see perhaps where if you fail in something, is there something else that's maybe a better fit for you? So creating those opportunities to experiment, I'm bulbul. Learning environments to experiment and try. And I think when I look at, say, even interactive cares or platforms such as interactive cares where you can learn, you can take courses and see if it's a good fit for you. I mean, do you have the technical aptitude to pass and make a career out of that? If not, okay, well, there are other courses that perhaps you can take from interactive cares or certain platforms. A lot of things, they're just requirements. Eta IELTS hoke, eta GMAT hoke, standardized exams. I had to take it. Everyone has to take it. But I think if students are given more leeway or space to be creative, to try and see, do they have a more artistic side maybe they should pursue, or do they want to pursue a more technical career or opportunities? Creating those learning environments where people, they can explore what makes sense for me. Amar jonno ki sob theke maybe based on awareness and self-awareness, and yeah.
There should be like trial and error, most definitely, because when we talk about students, when I talk about myself, আমার নিজের মনে হয় যে okay, should I dive into this other career অথবা এই স্কিলটা try করে দেখি? But when that happens, what happens is আমি একসাথে এত কিছু ট্রাই করা শুরু করে দিই যে মনে হয় যে I'm not a master of anything. It's like jack of all trades and master of none.
Sure.
What do you think? Like, is a jack of all trades, এই যে বাংলাদেশে যে এই জিনিসটা আমরা আশেপাশে সবাইকে দেখি, সবারই সারফেস লেভেল নলেজ আছে, এডুকেশন বলেন, এআই বলেন, টেক বলেন, বিজনেস বলেন, সবাই খুবই সারফেস লেভেল নলেজ. We don't go into the depth. Why do you think is that?
That's a good question. Ami bolbo je if you're not going deep, you're not going to last perhaps very long, or you will face onek challenges kintu face korba, because to be a master in any industry or in any space, you will need to go deep, whether that's karna, legal or rules are changing, whether that's because of your client's demands or interests. So having surface level knowledge and interest is one thing, but then you're a hobbyist. You're perhaps an opportunist. But to really succeed, so in my case, as opening interview there, what your question, what's your secret to success? First of all, I won't say I've succeeded. I think I've had some, or some level of success perhaps, but people could be important in my case. So if you're going to be involved in different ventures, finding the right co-founder, finding the right person who has the skills, who can complement you. But also understanding over time, awareness and self-awareness, and tomar passion ki, what are you most passionate about, and pursuing a career along those lines. Yeah.
Finding the right co-founder, I think that's going to be like the toughest job. It's like finding your spouse.
Yeah.
Because with my spouse, I most have definitely maybe spent 10 hours of my day,
Right.
but with my co-founder আমার তো 24 hours a day থাকতে হয় বলতে গেলে যদি কারোর ঘুম টুম না খেয়ে সে যদি কন্টিনিউয়াসলি সে ওয়ার্কের মধ্যেই থাকে
Right.
But the thing is, I have seen in my life, I'm pretty sure you have seen even more, অনেক বিজনেসেই কিন্তু কো-ফাউন্ডারের কারণেই বন্ধ হয়ে যাচ্ছে
Yes,
বাংলাদেশ
I've seen
হোক
that.
বা ইন্টারন্যাশনাল হোক so it's very important to find the
Sure.
perfect co-founder.
Yeah.
Is there any like secret or is there any way আপনি properly detect করতে পারবেন okay he or she is the perfect co-founder with me and I think আমার ওর উপরে ইনভেস্ট করতে হয়, what criteria should a perfect co-founder have?
I'm not going to deep into deep psychology, I'm not a psychologist, but I can only share from my experiences. In my case, and I think I made কয়েকজন ফাউন্ডারদের সাথেও I've shared এক বছর নিয়ে I want to study and understand the person, what makes them click, what are their ups and downs, how do they operate, how do they think. So I'll just give an example for real estate. So I'm our partner who's in Dubai. He's been in the industry for about 15 years, and we share common things from the Middle East. I initially came to him as a client. I was one of his clients, and then I quickly realized আমি ওকে প্রশ্ন করছি যেটার উত্তর সে দিতে পারতো না. So I could see his weaknesses. I could see certain gaps and holes. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out, is he looking for a partner? How can we create a win-win situation for both parties? And during that time, we've seen each other's high points and low points, the good and the bad, the ugly and what's not ugly or what's beautiful perhaps. So just like how you mentioned, like it's marriage or you finding the right spouse, you're going to spend your lifetime with this person. So picking the right partner who values you, who cherishes you, but who's okay putting up with your tantrums or তোমার ভালো সময় and খারাপ সময় or your different personality traits. That's, I guess, the psychological aspect. So in my case, I will always look for, before any venture that I'm partnering on, him and I, are we going to get along, or her and I, are we going to get along? So that's very important. That's just sort of my approach. But then again, real estate, automotive, these are more traditional. I'm not a tech founder. I don't have a tech business. In certain cases, it has to be what skill sets are they bringing that would hopefully complement mine.
Most definitely. So you focus on like the skills, you focus on the same mindset এবং যেভাবে আপনি বললেন যে giving that person some time as well, because আমরা on the first glance or on the second glance it's kind of like talking to your partner, right? On the very first conversation or the second conversation, you might not know a lot about this person, but giving both of the people time. এই যে আমরা যে স্টার্টআপে ইনভেস্টমেন্ট নিয়ে কথা আমরা বলছি, I will give you two scenarios right now. So let's say someone like me, I'm not talking about myself, but let's say someone like me.
You're not, or you are, or is this a mind game?
Maybe it's a mind game, but let's see. Maybe someone like me who is in her 20s, সে হয়তো বা তেমন একটা ইনভেস্টমেন্ট আপনার কাছে চাচ্ছে না, বাট তার নিজের একটা EdTech করার অনেক ইচ্ছা আছে. So maybe this is her way and she wants to start right from scratch. Maybe she wants to start on her own, but with like a couple of friends. This is one side of the story. আপনি জানেন, if you invest here, you might not get a lot of return instantly. Versus, on the other hand, an already established EdTech with a lot of money, they know where to go, the people to take, they have the perfect partners and everything. They know their vision. You know that if you invest here, you're going to get more return. Out of these two, which one are you going to invest on?
So I'm experience থেকে বলবো যে when I was placed in that situation, I chose number one, which was the budding entrepreneur and who's up and coming. But the reason and the mindset was different. To talk in that particular moment in time, I'm not strictly looking at just exclusively at returns. Over time, I think I have a balanced portfolio. So even as a limited partner, like for example, now I've invested with Tim Draper, and in one of his funds, or upcoming fund number 8. That opportunity will give me a lot of exposure to learn about how he operates, how he deals with his founders at an operational level who are managing the different startups. So to answer your question more specifically, you've asked a hypothetical question, but I would say when I've been in that position of someone who's up and coming versus returns, I need to think through if it's in the education space. My goal is how many jobs I'm looking at multiple other factors. So this EdTech, are they going to be improving lives? Are they creating jobs perhaps down the line? And I'm not saying it has to be just job creation. Perhaps there's an untapped segment. Maybe they're creating software or tools to like something. I think just while I was chatting with Khushbu recently from Interactive Cares, she's looking at children and how to focus on children's education. That's perhaps an untapped space. So creating new opportunities, being able to improve lives, having impact. Impact is, I think something that I've seen with certain startups, say at PrioShop, when it's one of my investments in a portfolio company, যখন PrioShop আসে, I think I was just looking at it from an e-commerce and a startup lens. But once you're on the ground, you meet the founders, you meet their clients, you see how they're operating. It connected with my story of what I was seeking as well, or maybe how I've wanted to vicariously live through other founders. So even in the education space, since you've specifically, and I'm sorry, Jami, e-commerce, but you've asked about education. যখন আমি কেমব্রিজে যাচ্ছিলাম, সেটার জন্য I had to prepare for IELTS. And ওই সময় আমার মনে আছে যে like when I went for the exams or when I was preparing, I'd meet a lot of Bangladeshi students, যাদের maybe confidence level to low. Excellent students, and I can tell like perhaps a lot sharper than myself, or they're just great students, but for some reason, maybe the confidence isn't there. Maybe they're not comfortable for whatever reason, and they need not be. They're great in their own regard and respect. So at that time, I remember I thought I would love to come back to Bangladesh and maybe be an IELTS teacher or help students. But over time, you quickly realize certain things you're passionate about, certain things you're good at, and certain things I'm not going to pursue a career in as a teacher. However, that thought stays with me. We thought to আমার সাথেই থেকে গেল যে, wow, I would have loved to improve certain people's lives or maybe boost their confidence. So সেটা যখন I'm seeing through an EdTech coming and I recognize that, wait, this person can actually, when অনেক student, their lives improve করতে পারে. That's a positive. So that I would look at it more holistically, yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. The impact, the story, the reasons, the purpose. I think
purpose,
সব কিছু
exactly.
মিলিয়ে তারপরেই final decisionটা নেওয়া যায় যে I think this can be the right one for me.
Sure.
At the same time, like when people like me or when people আমাদের আশেপাশে দেখছি যারা নতুন বিজনেস স্টার্ট করার চিন্তা করছে, তারা ফার্স্টে কিন্তু তারা চিন্তা করে যে okay, I have a fantastic business idea, I have my friends as my co-partners and whatever, but where will the money come from?
Sure.
ফান্ডিংটা কোথা থেকে আসবে? তখনই they reach out to a lot of people. ওরা জানেও না যে কার কাছে রিচ আউট করতে হবে. What do you think তারা কি করা উচিত ওই টাইমে to get more funding?
So I'll give a lighthearted answer, and then I'll give sort of maybe a more, my approach with say just Blue Aura Ventures. The lighthearted answer would be, believe in yourself and go and achieve or focus or start your startup and see where things go without exclusively focus or without thinking so much just about funding.
Okay.
Get creative. And I see that with, mashallah, I've seen that with a lot of startup founders in Bangladesh. Many are focused on founding, and I get that. But or on this interactive Adda, I think I've I've met founders later in different parts of the world, perhaps, and they've never really talked about raising funds, but they're running huge empires or organizations. But fundraising was not their number one goal from day one. So I think, again, if your mindset's in the right place, you have the experience or you're building the skills, if you're delivering quality solutions, quality products, people will learn. Say in your case, you have a brand now. You've built a well-established brand. people know, okay, Sadia, what she's about, what Promi's about. So that helps, and that's positive. And hopefully, I think what I would say is over time, that should translate into people having more confidence, and we believe in her passions, we believe in her purpose, but taking some time to actually maybe get creative, build a business, look at different models, whether that could be revenue generation models. Maybe you can have, just like how, for example, myself, when I'm partnering with someone in Dubai and real estate, I'm not raising funds. I'm looking at, okay, what revenue models and income streams can I bring to the business and skills? What skills does he have? And it's sort of like a match. It sounds hoitoba cheesy, it's like a match made in heaven, but we complement each other. So not necessarily thinking about fundraising right away. And I think from the Blue Aura venture side, I would say Blue Aura.
So at the same time, ভাইয়া, আমরা যখনই কথা বলি আমাদের young audience নিয়ে, the first question that generally people ask is, okay, আমি আমার business শুরু করছি, I have my perfect partner, I have a business idea, but funding তো নেই, আমি বিজনেসটা শুরু করব কিভাবে? ফান্ডিং রিয়েলি এত কম টাইমে একটা ছোট স্টার্টআপের জন্য অ্যাচিভ করাটা, how quickly can they really do it, and what are the steps to finally achieve the funding that they really want to?
Sure. Okay, that's a good question, Prami. If it's your first venture, have realistic expectations. Go and try out a venture, see how far you can succeed, or see where, what your passion is, but what problem are you trying to solve? Funding is important, but also think, I would encourage entrepreneurs and founders to think through the lens of investors. Investors are going to want to see a track record. Maybe this is your first business. Do you have any corporate experience or experience in that space in a corporate setting? So focus more on solving problems, building perhaps a track record, demonstrating product market fit. And get creative and be comfortable getting creative. So for younger audiences and even for entrepreneurs, perhaps start something, for example, Prami, you shared with your friends. Maybe a couple of you can, because we can look at capital in different ways. It's not necessarily just limited to money. Capital can come from human capital, from say a group of friends. You come to you create something together or a venture together. You bring different skill sets, bring different client bases or income streams or revenue streams. And then you see that, wait, amar takoni funding lagche na. So before reaching out to folks for funding.
At the same time, I must ask, Bhaiya, right now, Bangladeshe eto startups up and coming আছে 20s and 30s এর মধ্যে অনেক মানুষই কিন্তু তারা যখনই স্টার্টআপের কথা চিন্তা করে তারা ফার্স্ট অফ অল চিন্তা করে আমার একটা ভালো তো আইডিয়া আছেই, আমার ভালো পার্টনারও আছে, কিন্তু আমার ফান্ডিং নেই। ফান্ডিংটা পাবো কোথায়? What advice do you have for them?
It's a great question, Prami. আমি বলবো যে instead of or focusing on funding right away, friendদের সাথে কিছু শুরু করো, get creative, look at different perhaps skills that as different friends তোমরা এসে কিছু create করতে পারো, কিছু শুরু করতে পারো. How would that bring in revenue? Because ultimately, when you look at capital stacks and when you look at investors, whether it's an angel investor such as myself or institutional investor, they are going to want to, ওরা কিন্তু সবাই দেখতে চাবে একটা track record, product market fit. তার আগে to have discussions about fundraising may be a little premature. But আমি বলবো যে look at the advantages or merits that being in Bangladesh's ecosystem and culture allows. So Bangladesh, I think a lot of youth, you're connected to your families and friends. And in the US, we call it FNF. So raise perhaps money from your friends and family. If they believe in you, you can obviously build that as part of your resume. When you're looking to then reach out to angels, perhaps they'll look at it in a good light that, okay, this person has credibility amongst their family and friends, so we may be interested in investing, and then have that thought or discussions of what's next. But demonstrating product market fit, having revenue streams, and just getting very creative. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurial people around Bangladesh, so you can get really creative, and yeah.
Of course, because আমরা right off the bat আমরা যখনই টাকার কথা চিন্তা করি, মানির কথা চিন্তা করি, মেবি দ্যাট শুডন্ট বি ইট, বিকজ আমরা শুরু থেকেই যেভাবে করে আপনি বলেছেন যে প্যাশন বা দ্য পারপাস, এগুলো সব কিছুই অনেক বেশি ইম্পর্টেন্ট, এবং হ্যাভিং আ ব্লেন্ড অফ এভরি সিঙ্গল থিং ইজ মোস্ট ডেফিনেটলি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। টাকাটাও ইম্পর্টেন্ট, আইল সে।
অবশ্যই টাকা it is important. It plays a role, but I think even based on my experiences, like প্রথম প্রশ্ন যেটা আপনি করলেন যে what's been your secrets? I would say people, and where if I'm not raising capital for, say, real estate and or a certain business, I have people over there that I'm working with. So I can bring in capital, say, for a project. They can bring market knowledge on the ground. What else can I bring to the table? Perhaps investment analysis, real estate investment analysis. So I know that's just for myself, but I'm your audience capable, but just look at different skill sets you can bring, build that track record and business, and family and friends. If you're in school or college, নিশ্চয়ই তোমার network will borrow, friend circle will borrow. So potentially raise from friends and family.
Of course. Because if you do have that passion, if you can show that passion, maybe friends and family তারা নিজেরাও ইনভেস্ট করতে ইন্টারেস্টেড হবে। At the same time, ইনভেস্টমেন্টের সময় আই এম প্রিটি শিওর আপনি এভরি সিঙ্গল ডে বা মান্থ বা ইয়ার ইউ হ্যাভ বিন লিসনিং টু হান্ড্রেডস অফ সেলস পিচেস, রাইট? পিপল আপনার কাছে এসে তারা পিচ দিচ্ছে যে প্লিজ ইনভেস্ট মি হিয়ার অ্যান্ড হোয়াট নট। আপনার কাছে কি মনে হয়, হোয়াট আর দ্য এলিমেন্টস অফ আ পারফেক্ট সেলস পিচ যেটাতে আপনি ইনভেস্ট করবেনই করবেন?
I mean, first, entrepreneurship is extremely tough. So kudos to, whether you're a startup founder or an entrepreneur who's not necessarily focused on rapid growth or scale, but you need a thick skin. At a very basic level, what problem are you trying to solve? I mean, Bulba is very important to address why that matters to you. Tarpore, how you plan to, I guess, solve that problem, or how you're addressing it, your team. And obviously, I think with that, the size of the market, the potential or the opportunity. But everything's an evolution as well. There are certain things maybe I used to look for 2 or 3 years ago. Ekhon Bangladeshe, after I've invested in, say, Interactive Cares or PrioShop, mashallah, they've raised the bar in many ways. And now I can share those growth stories with other founders from around the world. In fact, আমি 3 মাস আগে, right around Ramadan সময়, I was in touch with founders আপনার Egypt থেকে, Africa থেকে, and they had a lot going, and they're very clear. Their presentation decks were spotless, on point. Key problem, whether that's in automating or finding efficiencies in garments or in clothing, fashion, another one's in payments. So, I can go into much more detail about researching and understanding why has maybe M-Pesa or a certain startup succeeded, why one hasn't. But I'm bulboje, over time, I think the evolution from my portfolio companies or certain founders has increased or raised the bar. Though I can not only share those growth stories, but I've increased sort of the bar for what I'm looking for, because some founders have done exceptionally well.
Of course, Bhaiya. Right now, you've also mentioned investors from Egypt, from Africa, from Dubai. Founders from Egypt, Africa, Dubai, and everything. I would just like to know, just for fun, or maybe কি বলবো, একটু যদি sugar coating করেও আপনি বলতে চান, I would still want to know, but try to be as honest as possible. Founders from Africa, from Egypt, from Dubai, from Bangladesh. Which country, কোন countryর foundersরা সবচেয়ে বেশি ক্রিয়েটিভ হয় আপনার মনে হয়?
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh?
Absolutely, Bangladesh, and in all the positive and great ways. Bangladeshi founders by far, in my view, are very creative. আমি বলবো যে a large part maybe because of the challenges in raising funds. Founders from Egypt, they fall within the MENA geography, Middle East, North Africa. So they have an opportunity or scope. Founders from other parts of Asia may fall directly up within Asia as well. But Bangladesh, sometimes it's often not part of, I mean, you're in South Asia, but it doesn't follow within a MENA mandate or a strict hardcore Asia mandate. And founders have to get creative. So when I look at some founders from within the portfolio as well, they've been very creative. So even in terms of outreach, I think many founders have been very creative. Interesting characters as well. But, and I say that in a good way. Everyone's, it's a learning curve for so many, for everyone. It's been a learning curve for myself, and we'll all continue to evolve. But in terms of creativity, and I say this with a lot of pride and happiness, and this is what brings me back to Bangladesh. There's a lot of creativity that our founders have, which is why, even now I'm looking to reinvest in certain startups I've invested in, finding growth opportunities for them. Who can I connect them with? Whether that's for fundraising, whether that's for some guidance or mentorship. যদি একটা কোনো case study থেকে থাকে, মনে করেন Dubai, in a certain sector, say automotive, and I'll speak to that entrepreneur. Bhaiya, can you give a founder I've invested in Bangladesh to 5 minute or 10 minute সময় দিয়ে? Can you share your experiences so that at least the founder in Bangladesh doesn't maybe make the same series of either mistakes or knows what to do next, or what would perhaps, or create new options or ideas for them. So, yeah.
Because we're talking about mistakes, Bhaiya, so far, apni jokhon bolechen, in the very beginning, you mentioned that even in your life, you have had a set of failures.
Sure.
যেগুলো হয়তোবা আমরা in social media আমরা দেখি না, বা হয়তোবা আমরা সেগুলো জানি না. Even we do know that যতজন number of founders বা number of startups যত increase হচ্ছে in Bangladesh বা internationally, সেই অনুযায়ী the percentage of those who do make it to the top 5%, that's quite low. Now my question is, এই যে এত startups really fail করছে, বা আপনিও যে হয়তোবা আপনার লাইফে you did make a couple of mistakes থেকে তো of course we learn.
Sure.
But my thing is, এই যে এত different types of mistakes যে আমরা দেখি even in Bangladesh, what is the top maybe 3 mistakes that you see majority of the founders make here in Bangladesh?
That's a really good question. I mean, but caveat, not everything. Sometimes it's just a journey you have to go through. It's like, I think, in the US, Tony Robbins, sometimes he'll make his students walk over fire. Or he's used different examples about eating glass. Like, that's just a taste you have to experience. In terms of mistakes, so I'll start with myself. Just being naive, being young, not having not having mentors early on, perhaps not having sponsors. Things were done in good spirit, but recognizing that you're still making naive decisions. So I think I was personally, for myself, আমার অনেক influence or inspiration এসেছিল from Dr. Yunus, and in one of his books on social business entrepreneurship that he wrote in 2010, he talks about how humans আমরা কিন্তু অনেক multifaceted. We have a creative side, we have a technical side, and sometimes it's not just about money. So that's something that I actually appreciated from him. But even with that, you need to have, so in my case, for example, I'd founded one of my first sort of businesses. It was looking at micro equity and taking a small stake in very small businesses in Africa with 3 other founders from my previous university, or where I graduated for my undergraduate studies at Tike. Even though that failed, I think the relationships have helped us build better now in different, within, say, real estate. But I'm bolbo je top 3 mistakes, perhaps age, focusing a lot on fundraising or seeking capital. Karan ekhonu to tomar অনেকজনের, it takes, I would say, 20 years even, and I say this for myself, if you have to spend at least 20 years before you're maybe even taken seriously and have a professional track record. So Bangladesh, I understand, perhaps maybe it comes from corporate where we look at things through a lens of promotion. Ajke ami executive, kalke ami VP, vice president, or tarporer din senior vice president. It doesn't happen. Maybe it's happened in certain places in 3 years or 4 years, but the world doesn't really work that way. And more so in entrepreneurship, it's not about titles.
Yeah.
So not having realistic expectations, I think, and at the same time, shooting for fundraising, মানে খুব তাড়াতাড়ি যদি fundraising এ চলে যাও without having a track record.
Of course. When we talk about skills and different types of mindsets, এর পাশাপাশি তো of course an entrepreneur তার যে skills কিছু bounded থাকতে হবে এমনটা না, because আমরা যখন skills নিয়েও কথা বলি, there's like so many different factors of skills, so many different sectors. At the same time, like you said, যে humans, we are very multifaceted. But if I ask you, what is the one skill that you have noticed almost every single founder in Bangladesh have, the successful ones? কোন স্কিলটা সবার মধ্যেই আছে?
Communication, thinking more holistically, logic, being able to think beyond themselves. So I know, Jokon, when you started the interview, like a lot of people don't want to be their own boss. But being a founder is not just about you. It is solving a problem or working with clients in different fields and being able to offer a service. To make an advisor, even like, for example, myself, when I'm dealing with or working with my partner in real estate, are we literally sometimes taking আমরা কি order নিচ্ছি, আমরা কি advice দিচ্ছি? What is that space we're operating in with a certain client? But এটার মূল্য হচ্ছে, আমি বলবো যে it comes down to communication. So if you have being comfortable communicating, having soft skills, which I think you're a perfect example of. Yeah, absolutely. Having strong communication and being able to communicate with your clients, with your students, or people you're working with and your stakeholders, then you bring everyone up to page. Now, communications, soft skills for sure, but at the same time, perhaps written communications. Like when I look at my portfolio, again, I think PrioShop stands out in many ways. The founder is very good at sending monthly updates, quarterly updates. And by being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and experiencing when a challenge is good, if you're facing challenges, sharing that with people who have a 20-year track record, whether that's as an investor or from other fields of business, you're being vulnerable to a degree, and they can, perhaps share insights into helping you correct the course. So communication.
Of course. Talking about communication, I'm just going to blatantly ask this once again. We do have a lot of friends যাদের অনেক ভালো বিজনেস আইডিয়া আছে, তারা অনেক বুদ্ধিমান বা বুদ্ধিমতী। entrepreneurদের যা different characteristics হওয়ার কথা, they have that. They have the entrepreneurial mindset as well, but they're introverts. So my question is, যে introvert, যে কম কথা বলে, can that person not be a successful entrepreneur?
They absolutely can be a successful entrepreneur. I think, on this podcast itself, Interactive Adda, we've seen entrepreneurs who, I've seen at least entrepreneurs who, they aren't necessarily as outgoing or have a more,
have a lively personality or anything.
Can we just
yes, please.
ইংরেজিতে এখন ভুলে যাচ্ছি. What is the not shy, what do you call
lively, energetic?
No. If you're not outgoing and if you're not gregarious, then you are no, if you're no, not skeptical.
You're reserved, maybe?
But see, that's a negative word. What was your question?
My question was, can an introvert not be a successful
There you
entrepreneur?
go. Introvert.
Oh, introvert.
Introvert.
Okay.
Now Sammy's learning English.
No problem.
Introvert.
No problem.
I that's what I wanted to say, but all the negative stuff came in my head. I'm like, no, I'm not coming on this podcast and calling a founder.
Oh, please.
Okay. So wait, are you going to ask me?
I
Okay,
can
sorry.
most definitely.
Okay.
So now that আমরা আশেপাশে অনেক ফাউন্ডার্সদেরকে দেখি বা ইভেন আমি অনেক ফ্রেন্ডসদেরকে দেখি যাদের অনেক ফ্যান্টাস্টিক একটা বিজনেস আইডিয়া আছে বা যাদের হয়তো বা ফান্ডিংও আছে অ্যান্ড তাদের অন্টারপ্রেনিউরিয়াল মাইন্ডসেটটাও আছে, বাট হয়তো বা তারা ইন্ট্রোভার্টস, তারা তেমন একটা ভালো না ইন কমিউনিকেশন স্কিলস, বাট লাইক ইউ সেড কমিউনিকেশন স্কিল ইজ সামথিং ইজ দ্যাটস ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট ফর এভরি সিঙ্গল ফাউন্ডার। মাই কোয়েশ্চেন ইজ, যাদের ভালো কমিউনিকেশন স্কিল নেই, যারা ইন্ট্রোভার্টস, ক্যান দে নট বি সাকসেসফুল অন্টারপ্রেনিউর্স?
I think that's a great question. Introverts can definitely be successful. I think through this interactive Adda we've seen, I've actually seen entrepreneurs who are introverts and they're doing extremely well. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it shouldn't matter as much. But I think more importantly, what you bring up is awareness, self-awareness and consciousness. So if you're conscious and aware that you're perhaps an introvert and as a result, your communication skills are not very strong, what can you do to course correct that? So in my case, for example, when I was in university, I took a class on public speaking. Now, this was 15 years ago, so it's a constant work in progress, but it also means I'm aware of what my deficiencies or where I lack. So I'm বলবো যে, no, you don't need to be an extrovert, but যার মধ্যে, if you have this awareness to understand that you are an introvert and maybe you lack certain communication skills, great. Perhaps there are courses on public speaking or other ways that you can improve shop skill you can work on.
We should if we see that there's like a mistake, there's maybe like a liability, we should try and fix it as much as possible.
Work up weakness এর উপর কাজ করা.
Most definitely. Okay. Do you have any suggestions? কোনটা করলে ভালো হয়? Okay. Sure. Maybe we're talking a lot now. Okay, no problem. At the same time, Bhaiya, growing up, like I am very curious to know this as well. আপনি ছোটবেলা থেকেই কি সবসময় এই জিনিসটা ভাবতেন যে আমি বড় হয়ে অনেক different types of business invest করবো, but this is what I want to be, this is the Samy Rahman that I want to be, or did you have any other passions or any other interests in mind? Because আমরা বাংলাদেশে বেশিরভাগই কিন্তু ছোটবেলায় ভাবি যে বড় হয়ে ডক্টর হব, ইঞ্জিনিয়ার হব, এক একজন এক একটা ভাবে, বাট আমি কিন্তু এরকম ছিলাম না, বাই দ্য ওয়ে। আই ওয়াজ অলওয়েজ লাইক আমি বড় হয়ে টিচার হব, তাও টিচারও বলতাম না, আমি বলতাম যে আমি বড় হয়ে আমার স্কুলের প্রিন্সিপাল হব। So that's like a different story, but what did you want to be when you wanted to grow up?
For a very long time, I wanted to be an investment banker, stay in corporate banking or in corporate. So first, I mean, it's excellent that you had that level of awareness of what you're good at and what your passion is. I think after joining corporate or being in corporate after 8 years, I quickly realized, okay, where is this going to take me? What does a life in the say as an SVP or a managing director at a certain place, what does that entail? Our friend circle around, within my friend circle or colleagues who are in these positions, what does their life look like? So it's at that point that I realized, wait, I want to take an entrepreneurial route. There's obviously a lot of, not financial returns and investments, and that's part of it, but also fulfillment, or through the lens of fulfillment, I think. So that took time, but initially I wanted to be in investment banking and corporate. Yeah.
Of course. Another thing I would most definitely ask, I'm sorry if it sounds rude or anything, but it's not on the script, but আমি just আমার নিজের থেকে বলছি। আমরা যখনই যেই মানুষটা সবাইকে ইনভেস্ট করে তার কথা চিন্তা করি, we think of dollars, we think that person is very very rich, because আমরা লাইক ছোটবেলা থেকেই যখন we grow up আমরা ভাবি যে ওকে আমি বড় হয়ে লাখপতি হব, আমি বড় হয়ে কোটিপতি হব। উই থিঙ্ক অফ টাকা, এখনো পর্যন্ত কিন্তু বাঙালিরা উই থিঙ্ক অফ লাখপতি বা কোটিপতি। বাট ইফ আই ওয়ান্ট টু নট জাস্ট বি আ কোটিপতি, আমি যদি রাইট অফ দ্য ব্যাট লেটস সে ইন 10 years টাইম একজন বিলিয়নিয়ার হয়ে যেতে চাই, ইজ দেয়ার এনি সিক্রেট টু গেটিং রিচ ইন আ ভেরি শর্ট পিরিয়ড অফ টাইম?
I liked the first part of becoming maybe a billionaire or having that ambition or goal, but not in a quick period of time. এটা হয় না হবেও না but having I think being aware of okay how do I so having very clear goals being intentional about everything you do so people who have reached that stage of life because I've met I think I'll give an example when I was in London at Global Ventures it was a meeting and we'd all met I'm forgetting the gentleman's name he is a billionaire but he had shared sort of the dark side of becoming a billionaire that's not a side I don't know if he spoke or wrote about it in his book but যখন উনি share করলেন it makes you think that our shop it's not for everyone there's so many perhaps aspects or phases and sacrifices যেটা I'm not saying it's the right approach or the right place that would suit everyone's personality and what you seek so by all means having or a certain mindset or goal whether that's to become a multimillionaire okay that's great you can have a vision board I have my own mental vision board of where I want to be at certain ages in my life and then I have to be very tactical jacha what do I have to achieve what kind of portfolio do I have to build in order to achieve that but tar sathe sathe to be very realistic and recognize how much of my time, life, and energy is this going to take? And what does that mean in terms of what compromises do I have to make? So, yeah.
Of course. That's really wonderful. আপনি যেভাবে করে শেয়ার করলেন যে we only think about the money, right? We only think about the dollars. কিন্তু আমরা এটা চিন্তা করি না যে to become a billionaire, like you said, অনেক sacrifices নিতে হয়. Maybe we are risking the time that we are spending with our friends, with our family. Maybe we are risking the relationships that we made in the middle. সব কিছু অনেক কিছু risk করে, অনেক কিছু sacrifice করে. And then maybe if we do become a billionaire, the question that we do ask ourselves is, ঘুমানোর আগে, are we really happy or not?
I love the way you put that because I think our interview that I brought up happiness, but mental health, happiness. These are real conversations. I don't know if we have, but at least in the U.S., I'm part of different groups, and I know. I'm that it takes a huge toll on a lot of people, and if there are relationships you prize, if there are people you prize, so Amar Khetre, like for example. My mom is someone very important. Making sure she's well is very important to me as well, just within the family. So no amount of money is ever going to satisfy that. And so, picking your battles, but being very aware and intentional. And is it worth it? Like, maybe it's easy to answer, but would you give up certain relationships, say with your family? Why? And why would you? So just being very, understanding of এটা তোমার উপরে কিভাবে impact করতে পারে.
Knowing properly যে how do I really define success by myself, right? Absolutely.
That's that's a really nice way of putting it. What does success look like to me? What would successful outcomes maybe? And if you're married or if you're with family, what would that look like to my family?
Of course.
Because you spend, again, a lot of time with your family as well.
Of course. Thank you so much. We are actually ending on like a very positive tone because আমি ভেবেছিলাম আমরা জানবো যে এত টাকা এত টাইমে তাড়াতাড়ি আর্ন করলে কি কি কাজ করা যায় and everything. But at the end of the day, should that really be our goal, right?
Yeah, should it? And rather, like overnight success is a myth. It doesn't exist. I've seen a lot of people in different networks that I'm part of. So I've been fortunate. I'm a mentor who I've learned from, and within those mentorships, you have networks. So people who have, perhaps invested a lot or taken drastic decisions, easy come, easy go. So yeah, that's something to be mindful.
Easy come, easy go. A mindset, of course, বদলাতে হবে as much as possible. But এখন আমরা একটা সেগমেন্টে চলে আসছি যেখানে it's going to be like easy come, easy go. Because I would ask you some questions. It's a rapid fire round. আমি চাই আপনি instantly, whatever comes in your head, just directly, just give me the answer. Blatantly, কোনো সমস্যা নাই. Be as honest as possible.
What if I আমার যদি বাংলাদেশি food খুব পছন্দ and that doesn't even fit the answer?
Oh, just say whatever comes to your mind. কোনো সমস্যা নেই. Let's start. If you're ready, we can start. Okay. First question. এক শব্দে নিজেকে describe করুন.
Inquisitive,
Inquisitive, curious, like more
Curious.
eager to know যে কি হতে পারে. That's very good. Throughout our discussion আমরা কিন্তু অনেক influential মানুষদের ব্যাপারে জানছি এবং people who have really inspired you. সবচেয়ে influential person কে আপনার লাইফে?
I would just one person would be hard. Amar Abba, যখন উনি ছিলেন, and I would like to. I read about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot, and I would like to have those characteristics and qualities. Yeah.
MashaAllah. Okay. Since we did talk about money just a little bit, but তারপরেও I am very curious. আপনার প্রথম ইনকাম কত ছিল and আপনার highest ইনকাম কত ছিল?
Oh, protham income. That's a bit of a hard question. Well, I was a tutor, so I think it was on an hourly basis at university, $10 an hour or $12. Highest, close to 200,000. Close to
200,000
a year.
A year.
Okay. Yes.
Not
yeah.
an hour. Just to make things clear.
No.
Okay. আমরা যখন like money নিয়ে চিন্তা করি, finance নিয়ে চিন্তা করি, we have like a lot of different rules. Like we have like a 80-20 rule. We have like 50-50 rule. Like maybe we save 50%, we spend the 50%, and আরো অনেক different types of rules কিন্তু আমরা অনেকে ফলো করি. আপনি ইনকাম সেভ করার জন্য, স্পেন্ড করার জন্য এরকম কি কোনো রুল ফলো করেন?
এটা খুবই ভালো প্রশ্ন যখন when I was much younger I think there was one rule that I'd read about investing in like equities versus fixed income in a certain ratio, subtract your age from 100 and the answer you get that should be a certain percentage in equities and certain percentage in fixed income. ওইভাবে that's too mathematical and too rigid. But over time, or even say currently, income is one part. But I think now it's become more important, building sustainable wealth. Because, we've talked, say, about having a certain number in mind, but also giving back, whether that's through zakat or waqfs. And it goes back to schools as well. So not everything is monetary. So,
of course.
Yeah.
If you really had to choose, because আপনি তো একজন investor, but you do deal with so many different types of people everywhere, right? Job অনেকেই করছে, freelancing অনেকেই করছে, but job নাকি freelancing বর্তমানে কোনটা সবচেয়ে বেশি এগিয়ে?
That's a tough question. I would say if you can do both initially, so that at least you have a sustainable source of income. Because freelancing initially it may take some, there's a lead time or it may take time for you to get different projects. But if you're যদি কারোর passion থাকে I want to be self-employed or I want to take an entrepreneurial route, তাহলে অবশ্যই freelancing and taking a self-employment route.
Just a mix of both and then see কোন route আপনার জন্য ভালো হয়, right? Throughout our entire discussion, you did mention about books as well. So আপনি হয়তোবা পড়তে ভালোবাসেন বা আপনি self-improvementে বিশ্বাস করেন. Now my question is, যদি আপনাকে সময় দেওয়া হতো 1 মাস, এই 1 মাসের মধ্যে আপনি যে কোনো একটা স্কিল ডেভেলপ করতে পারতেন, which skill would that be?
It's the one skill that never ends, and consistently focused on sales, just different closing methods, different ways to work with clients and selling.
Okay. আমরা যেহেতু AI নিয়েও কিন্তু কথা বলেছি throughout our discussion. So here আমাদের বাংলাদেশের যদি অডিয়েন্সদেরকে আপনার কোনো ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল অ্যাডভাইস দিতে হয় টু দ্য ইউথস অফ বাংলাদেশ, আপনার কি মনে হয় ওরা কোন জিনিসটাতে সবচেয়ে বেশি ল্যাক করে? ডু দে সেভ টু মাচ? ডু দে স্পেন্ড টু মাচ? শুড দে স্পেন্ড মোর দ্যান হোয়াট দে আর ডুইং? হোয়াট ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল অ্যাডভাইস ডু ইউ হ্যাভ ফর দ্য ইউথস অফ বাংলাদেশ?
Definitely save initially so that you have a rainy day fund for 2-3 months, just in case if you don't find a job, because job markets are pretty hard now around the world. I'm seeing it like a lot economic layoff, at least in the US. But have a rainy day fund that you can tap into. I've always had a rainy day fund that I can tap into if times are hard. Do keep savings and just be intentional about your goals. Perhaps if you have a number, what would that entail to reach that number? It could be 1 million. For some people, maybe it's 10 million. Yet for others, I know it's 100 million. and then understanding what it's going to take to get there. So,
Of course.
yeah. But have savings, obviously.
At the same time, like আপনি আপনার free time because I did see on social media and everything, you do really enjoy sports as well. That's what I saw. কিন্তু my question is, কোন type of sport সবচেয়ে বেশি আপনার পছন্দ? And do you enjoy football as well?
Oh, I love football. I used to watch the EPL before, but yeah, I think Messi, Argentina, or in the leagues, my favorite teams obviously hasn't for many years. Manchester United's been on the trajectory. It's okay. Well, we don't need to discuss, but yeah, soccer is great. Football, yeah.
So Man U fans, যেখানে আছি, comment down below. At the same time, do you enjoy movies? Like আপনার কি movies দেখা হয়?
এখন আর দেখা হয় না. Maybe if I'm on a plane and I can catch a part of a movie, but I haven't watched. I think nothing recently. But
So I'm just curious, like so far যা দেখা হয়েছে from movies or maybe পড়া হয়েছে from books, what movie would you suggest to anybody who is maybe starting their entrepreneurship journey?
Wow, so many movies I watch, documentaries as well, but perhaps The Social Network or the Facebook. That was a good example of মানে কে তোমার friend আজকে and কে তোমার friend কালকে, keeping these in mind, maybe having strong legal contracts and agreements in place. But there are a lot of documentaries or series that I've seen on Netflix as well. So yeah, explore and see what stories and takeaways you can. I think I can't come up with anything from Netflix actually, but there have been a lot of series I think that I've picked up stuff from.
Of course, yeah. So like here and there আমরা অনেক কিছুই জানলাম so far in this entire discussion. We've talked about your life. At the same time, we've talked about finance, how to save and whatnot. We've talked about entrepreneurship, কিভাবে investment পেতে হয়, বা actually at the end of the day কোনটা আমাদের real mantra হওয়া উচিত for success. We have actually learned a lot from you. I've actually learned a lot from you.
I've learned from you too. I think every experience is a learning opportunity, and I think that's how we should see it as. So যখনই বাংলাদেশে আসি and when I meet with founders from my portfolio, it's a great learning experience. So,
of course, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
And of course, and most definitely যারা এখানে আছি দর্শকরা right now, I think যদি আমরা এন্টায়ার পডকাস্ট থেকে একটাও লার্নিং কার্ভ যদি আমরা নিয়ে যেতে চাই, বা if we want to take something out of this, at least what I would take is, what should our real mantra for success be? Success মানেই কি শুধু যে আমি অনেক $1 billion উপরে শুয়ে থাকবো? Because would that really bring success at the end of the day? Or should success really be proper happiness? And happiness can be আপনার যেভাবে ভালো লাগে, not just with family, not just with friends, it can even be you alone. And like you said, আরেকটা খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং জিনিস আমরা জানলাম যে একজন entrepreneur যে আমার হতেই হবে to become successful, to become rich. It's not that, right? It's not for everybody. It depends from person to person. But at the end of the day, we need the passion, we need the purpose, and we need the people around us.
Sure. And just say to people, believe in yourself and invest in yourself. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Sadia. Thank you so much for having me.
Most definitely. And দর্শকদেরকেও অনেক ধন্যবাদ। কেমন লাগলো আজকের পডকাস্টটা অবশ্যই আমাদেরকে কমেন্টে জানাতে ভুলবেন না। ইন দ্য ফিউচার আপনি চান আর কার সাথে আমরা আড্ডা দিই আমাদের এই ইন্টারঅ্যাক্টিভ আড্ডা পডকাস্টে, সেটাও জানাতে ভুলবেন না। অ্যান্ড হোয়াট ওয়াজ দ্য বেস্ট পার্ট অফ দিস পডকাস্ট অবশ্যই আমাদেরকে জানাবেন। ফর মোর সাচ ভিডিওস, ফর মোর ইনফরমেটিভ কন্টেন্ট, মেক শিওর টু সাবস্ক্রাইব টু আওয়ার ইউটিউব চ্যানেল ইন্টারঅ্যাক্টিভ কেয়ারস এজ ওয়েল। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন। আল্লাহ হাফেজ।